Here we go. Hi folks, Barnaby Dorfman here with Foodista.com, and I'm really excited today to be talking with Cybele Pascal, who I actually went to high school with, and we were connected recently, and she is an author of a series, so I'm going to start over.
It's too early.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I should have had a cup of coffee here.
And I went out last night to a gingerbread decorating party, and I ate
Oh,
way too much sugar.
ah, fun. Okay. Hi folks, Barnaby Dorfman here with Foodista.com, and I'm really excited to be interviewing Cybele Pascal, the author of a series of allergy-free cookbooks. We reconnected recently. We actually went to high school many years ago together, and today she has a new cookbook that we're going to be talking about, which I have right here, Allergy-Free Cooking. It's actually Allergy-Free and Easy Cooking, which is one of her latest editions. And so welcome, Cybele.
Hi, thank you for having me on this Google video chat.
Wonderful, thank you. I was thinking maybe as a start, you could just tell us how you got into the whole allergy-free cooking space and category, if you will.
Absolutely. It's been a very serendipitous process for me. I actually began cooking at the high school that you and I went to together. My job was to cook the nightly vegetarian meal for the 50 vegetarians at our school. So that's how I really got interested in cooking in the first place, but never planned to have it be my career. And then my son, Lennon, who is now 11, was diagnosed with multiple severe food allergies when he was 4 months old. So it really completely changed the way I looked at preparing food. I had to eliminate the top 8 allergens from everything that at that time I was eating. I was breastfeeding him, so I had to be put on what's called a maternal avoidance diet, which means that I couldn't eat anything that might pass through to him. And so I was on that for many, many months. And then once he started eating solid foods, he was also on an avoidance diet. So he couldn't eat any of the top 8 food allergens. So I started writing recipes down for us because there weren't any top 8 free recipes out there that I could find. There were no cookbooks for people like us. And as I started writing recipes, and luckily my history as a cook, which I had done for many years, for in the summers or after college, really served me well because I was able to start creating recipes for us. And then as I accumulated enough recipes, I realized I should write a cookbook for the other people out there like us. And then sort of that's where it all began. And from then on, I was an allergy-friendly cooking expert by default.
Great, and so you've written several cookbooks. How many? What was the
This is
first
my
one?
third book. This Allergy-Free and Easy Cooking is my third.
Wow, great. And maybe tell us a little bit about why, so this is about allergy-free easy cooking. Why the shift, why the focus on easy?
Interestingly enough, okay, so my first book I wrote, it came out in 2005, and it took me a few years to write it. And I just sort of did the recipes that I liked, but I made them allergy friendly. And I would do things like slow braised lamb stew and or short ribs, foods that I really love to eat, and were from my foodie experience. And a lot of kid-friendly foods, but many foodie types of recipes. And those recipes were really great, but one of the things I realized after that cookbook came out is that a lot of people who have to cook allergy-free don't necessarily want to cook, don't have any experience with cooking, and are forced to do so by necessity. So they really want it to be as simple as possible. They don't want to spend 4 hours marinating something. They want to just do it quickly. So I really wanted to meet that demand for those out there who are forced to cook but don't want to, and to make it more pleasurable and easier for them. So that was like, you know what? I'm going to write a book full of 30-minute meals for people like, and I, quite frankly, at this point in my life, when I was writing my first cookbook, I only had 1 kid, and I wasn't working full-time, and I had the time. Now I have a full-time job, I have 2 kids, and I'm running around, so I don't want to spend more on a regular weeknight than 30 minutes putting something together. So that's why I did it. And it was
Gotcha.
also a challenge, quite frankly.
That makes sense. Yeah, I can relate. I love to cook, but some cookbooks, like the French Laundry cookbook, practically every recipe starts out on day 1, and
Right.
you're in for a long process. Um, One of the questions I had was, do you think that there are health benefits for people who don't have food allergies eating with this diet? And then also maybe if you could define kind of what is allergy-free cooking, like what are the specific things that you avoid?
Sure. Well, to start out, there are 8 foods that account for 90% of food allergies. So those
Wow.
8 foods are dairy, eggs, wheat, soy, peanuts, tree nuts, fish, and shellfish. That's 90% of food allergy sufferers are reacting to those foods. And in Canada, there's actually a ninth one, which is sesame. So that's included in their top list. And I think that probably will be added in the United States as well. So those are the foods, and I do think that there are benefits to eating a top 8 allergen-free diet. I think that I consider it sort of clean eating, because by default, you're really not eating any processed foods. Because, you know, you go to the store and you look at a processed food, you look at a can of something, right? Generally, there's going to be a derivative of soy or of wheat, you know, but that it's been processed. It's not even in its original form. So I think it's by default, by eating an allergy-free diet, you're also eating a whole foods diet, because you're not eating these processed foods. And I think that improves your health. I think the other thing that I've discovered about eating this way, and I've been eating this way now for 10 years, is that, and let it be said, I also have food allergies, just to put it out there. Okay. Not just my kids. But I find that instead of limiting my world, it's actually expanded my world. So yes, you can't eat any of these top 8 foods, but that forces you to think in new ways about other types of foods. So in fact, it's completely expanded my horizons. So I'm thinking about things like ancient grains, right? I didn't ever think about cooking with ancient gluten-free grains like quinoa and amaranth and sorghum and millet. I wasn't using those before I was forced to eliminate wheat from our diet. So, and they're incredibly nutritious. So right there, you've got, you know, fiber and all these nutrients, these vitamins. That's a really, really great and unexpected benefit, I think.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I've heard that from so many people who, for one reason or another, have eliminated elements of kind of what you would call a normal diet from their diet, and it does open your horizons. As I was reading through your book, one of the items I'd never heard of was coconut amino acids.
Okay. You're so smart to focus on that. It's interesting. I just did an interview about the chicken lettuce cups recipe, which uses my homemade hoisin sauce, which I make with these coconut amino acids. And I was so hoping they would ask me about them, and they didn't. So thank you for asking about those. That ingredient is fantastic. One of the funnest things about this book for me is I've done a lot of Asian recipes. And because it's very hard to find Asian food that's wheat-free and soy-free, and often has, you know, Asian food often has fish sauce in it and nuts, and so I really wanted to focus on that. So I created all these Asian sauces, and the backbone of those sauces, for many of them, is this coconut amino acids, which are, excuse me, they're a raw food. And it's fermented coconut sap, and it really has this incredible, like, the tangy, salty, sweet thing, the umami of soy sauce. I wouldn't just throw it on, you know, fried rice on its own and expect it to do the job, but when you mix it with other ingredients, it really can approximate those flavors that you would expect in, say, a hoisin sauce or a teriyaki sauce. So that's been one of my favorite. One thing about that ingredient, though, is if you go buy it, excuse me, guys, it's early. If you go buy it, because it's fermented and it's traveled generally from the Philippines, when you open it, it may explode because it's very, very fizzy with the fermentation. So I've had a couple of experiences where I've opened it and it's gone, so just make sure it's stabilized.
Wow, okay. The next thing I wanted to ask you about is a lot of our readers are aspiring cookbook authors, and this is your 3rd cookbook. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about kind of your writing process and what you've learned as you've gone from book 1 to book 3. How has that changed, and any sort of tips you can share with our readers?
Well, my process has certainly changed. My first book, I wrote the book, and then I went out and tried to get somebody to publish it, which is kind of what you have to do with a first cookbook. You have to prove that you are able to do a complete cookbook, a comprehensive cookbook. So I think when you're starting out, I think the best thing to do is to write the whole book, essentially on spec, and then either try to sell it or publish it yourself. And I think more and more people are publishing their own cookbooks now. There's a great benefit to that. There's also a problem with that. The great benefit is that you then keep all the proceeds, so you don't have to basically give out royalties and a cut of everything along the way. But the good thing I think about going with a publisher is then you have the expert eyes of your editor and marketing team. So, and I've had really good experience with my editor on this past 2 books. It's been the same person at 10 Speed, Melissa Moore. So, I don't know, pros and cons. In terms of the difference between the first book, second book, and third book, again, I think it's that experience of I sold a concept for the second and third book. So I wrote just a chapter and a handful of recipes, and then had to deliver by a deadline, which was interesting because you're forced to be cooking sometimes, 6 recipes a day just to test them again to make sure you get it on deadline. But I personally really loved working with an editor. So for me, that I really enjoyed the last 2 books and having that input from somebody else. Not She doesn't do a tremendous amount of rewriting. She just says, you know what, we might want to move this into a different chapter, or we're missing this kind of recipe here, that kind of thing, which is
Gotcha.
nice.
Gotcha. And how about the photography? It's got, I mean, the book has wonderful photography. I don't know how well it'll show on the screen here, but who did the photography, and did you cook all the dishes and then they photographed as you were doing recipe development, or was it all one kind of shoot done later? What was that process like?
I lost you for a moment. You
Oh,
froze. You freeze over there?
yep, I'm here. See me now?
Yes. No, you just froze. Again, Barnaby, thank you for mentioning the coconut amino acids, and thank you for showing the gnocchi picture, because that photograph is one of my favorite in the book. And actually, it's interesting because it wasn't going to be my favorite. We had a really hard time with that shot. Really hard time trying to make it look the way we wanted it to, and then we added some red pepper flakes to it, and all of a sudden that photograph was transformed and became beautiful. My photographer is brilliant. His name is Shugard McAndrews, and he did my last book as well. And I worked with the exact same team on Allergy-Free and Easy Cooking that I worked on with the Allergen-Free Baker's Handbook, because we all had really, really good alchemy and chemistry together. So I just put the same team together. He, as I said, I think is fantastic. He's up in Seattle and now has a full-time job at Amazon, which is a little bit heartbreaking for me, because I would like to work with him more. No, I did not make all the food myself. I was there for all of the cooking and the styling, but Karen Shinto, who is a genius food stylist, did all the cooking, and I supervise. And she'll come to me and say, "Does this look right? Or am I reducing the sauce enough? Or is this the right color?" And so I'm there sort of to coach her, but she did it. And then Lee Noe did all the prop styling, and she's just also, I think, brilliant. So she really she gives the look of the book with her props. So and then again, I used her in the last book. So there's a real continuity between the two in terms of the aesthetic.
Great. Well, it really shows. It's a wonderful package. I mean, the whole thing, the book, photography, the recipes. I don't have any food allergies, but I learned a lot, and definitely can see myself cooking some of these just because they look delicious.
I hope.
Go ahead.
Oh, I hope you do, and they'll save you time. Because
Yeah.
they're only 30-minute meals.
Correct. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us, and everybody out there, please go out and pick up this book. I think you'll enjoy it. Again, whether you have food allergies or family members who have food allergies or not. So
I didn't mention one thing, which is that it's also a gluten-free cookbook.
oh yeah, yep,
You never
definitely.
mentioned that. Just so
Okay.
you know. Okay.
Thanks again.
Thank you, Barnaby.
Okay, great. Did you, the last thing I thought was if you wanted to do just not interview style, but 10, 15, 20, 30, however long you want, seconds of just describing the book, and I can do that as a separate video that's just kind of you pitching the book or describing the book in your own words with no frame from me.
That's fine.
Okay, go for it.
Should I introduce myself?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Ready?
Yep.
Hi, I'm Cybele Pascal, and I am the author of the new cookbook, Allergy-Free and Easy Cooking, which is a collection of 75 30-minute meals that are free of all top common allergens. So it's dairy-free, egg-free, soy-free, wheat-free, peanut-free, tree nut-free, fish, shellfish-free, and sesame-free, and also gluten-free. It's a very comprehensive collection of very easy takeout at home style recipes, as well as fancier recipes you might want to make for a dinner party, like lamb kebabs and stuffed acorn squash. So I hope you will enjoy it, and if you have any questions or want to shave any more time off, feel free to contact me at cybelepascal.com. Thank you.
Great, that was wonderful. Cool. Well, and I'll definitely be linking to you and everything in the actual post. So great. Well, thanks so much for the time. Let's see. I'm just going to